Hey, welcome. This is Ben Deal. So excited for you to join me today. I've got a great friend. His name is James Toler. He is a real estate investor through and through entrepreneur. He is with us today. James, how are you doing?
Oh, I couldn't be better. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate you having
Awesome.
me on.
Yeah,
So it's a
no,
real honor
super great. Yeah,
to
super grateful.
include it.
When I started my journey into real estate, you were one of the first guys that I came across my path. I think I walked or showed one of your listings. It was out in like Seabrook, had a sign in the yard. It was your flip. You were selling it. I was like, well, who's this guy, James? And then little did I know the world of James Toler, kind of the empire that you've built, all the activity that you do, the people that you serve. So, do you want to kind of share a little bit about how you got into real estate, what your journey looked like at the beginning, and then kind of take us up to where it is today?
Sure, yeah. So I got into real estate more so uh, trying to find financial independence.
Mm.
I worked for a family business. I did worked on the maintenance of the toll roads in Austin. So I
Mm.
started off in the toll roads in Houston, and my dad family business got a very large contract in Austin. So it's one of those things. I was around 20, late teens, and my dad come to me and said, James, we've got this big deal. I need you to go up there. And I left my friends, I left my girlfriend, I left all the people that I was in my life, and I went up there and I basically spent the next 10 years doing the toll roads up there.
Mm.
And kind of built that up, and I ended up meeting my now wife in Austin. And we got to a point where we would get these big jobs, and my dad would come to me and say, "Hey, we got this job. I need you to do it." And I said, "No problem, Dad." And I'd do it, and I'd do it, and you think, okay, well, where's my pay at? And all this. I'm getting all this work, and so ended up. What I really did was I looked at when ended up getting married and had my first child.
Mm.
And my wife used to talk all the time about, when I wake up, and I'm 50, what does that look like? Am I still working for my dad? Does my dad sell the company? Do I end up getting the company? All these unknowns. And I was very loyal, Ben. So I'm a very, very loyal person. I was loyal to my dad. And then as time went on, I started thinking, how do I make sure that my financial future is in good shape and I have more control over it? And so that's what I ended up breaking off from our family business. Really, that was the reason. It was uh, loyalty kind of changed from my direct family to my wife and my children, and taking more of an ownership in what my future looked like. So that's what you asked me kind of how I got into real estate. It was breaking off from a family business into to real estate and I didn't know anything. Kind of like all of us. We
Yeah.
started. I was watching HGTV, and you see those big numbers, $80,000, $90,000, deals, and they don't tell you that there's realtor cost and interest cost and taxes, and there's a lot they leave out. Thankfully, they leave that out, but I don't know that out. But anyway, that I said, I can do that. I've been running these 50-man crews on the highways. I can do a little 3 or 4 man crew in these little houses. I can do that. I think I really can. And so that's kind of what got me into real estate was, just wanting financial independence and financial, future for my family. That was really what led me into it. And from there, man, I didn't know anything. I really didn't. I got in, didn't know about wholesaling or lending or anything. And, I did a deal, took me a couple months, made $4,000 and realized I can't make it on $4,000, flips.
Mm.
So did another deal, partnered with my sister on my first and second deal. First one we made 4,000. The second we made 58,000. So it was a much better deal. My thinking there is, I'm splitting half of the risk. Yes. So, if I lose my shirt, at least I'll lose half my shirt. That's kind of what I was saying, not knowing what I'm doing. So anyway, that's kind of how I got going. I did 2 deals, and then the third one I broke out on my own. I felt after that $58,000 deal, I thought I had it a little better, I got a grasp on it all. So, and from there, I realized you can't make any money doing one at a time. That's what I realized. So then I found private money, and that was a huge growth curve for me. I was pretty good at finding deals and negotiating deals. That was kind of probably my gift. In the construction, I was really good at construction. So then I started doing one at a time. I started getting private money, which would finance pretty much my whole, my rehab. I wouldn't have a whole lot of money in each deal, Ben. So that's how I started. I started going to 2 deals at a time and 5 deals at a time, and 10 deals at a time. So I just scaled, and using private capital, I built these really strong relationships with crews, contractors, and they just said, James, line them up. And my lenders said, James, line them up. I got money. And I just all kinds of ranges. Right? I mean, one lady, I remember she had got a divorce and she inherited $700,000. So she said, James, build a relationship up. She goes, James, this is all yours. Just use it all. And so, I had a couple of people like that where, they said, James, find deals. And I had the contractors that said, James, find deals. And that's how I scaled. I kind of paired the money with our contractors and then my ability to find deals. And I just mix it all in. I got up to doing 12, 13 at a time. That's how I did that many, was just kind of putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
Flipping. And I started adding rentals over time. And I'll kind of talk about how I got into lending. It was kind of interesting. Had a buddy of mine come to me. His lender backed out day of closing. You ever hear about that kind of thing, Ben?
Oh, yeah.
Day of closing. And he comes to me and goes, James, look, the seller's not extending. He's not extending. I have to close today. And my lender's backed out. You're the only guy that I know that's $116,000. He goes, you're the only guy that I know that's got $116,000 cash.
Right.
I need it today.
Yeah.
I said, well, I've never loaned money before. So I went and I looked at the deal. I liked it. I said, you know what? I'll do it. I went and got a cashier's check for $116,000. I went straight to the title company, drew up the docs, and we closed the same day. About 2 hours.
Wow.
From call to close. And that was my first loan that I made. And then from there, I just it just grew, honestly. It grew just really from helping investors over the years. I've been doing this for almost a decade now.
Right.
So, you help these people grow their business. And just over time, people come to me and say, James, I trust you. And, I know you've been my mentor of mine. Naturally, I'd like you to lend me the money. So it's been a wild ride, Ben. I really, more of a helping a buddy out. Lending stuff it was not some focus of mine. It was more of a good deed, that revolved into, really it suits my skill set as a mentor and a teacher. I love teaching and I love helping, and lending paired with teaching is a very good mix. So that's kind of led me into that.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Yeah. And I think, so you're involved with us in this event called Expand that we're hosting here in June 20th in Houston. And one of the things, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit, and I'd love to see if you want to dive into it a little bit more. I feel like as an entrepreneur, business person, everybody has these moments to expand, like moments of expansion. And I think, they happen in kind of chapters, I feel like, in those transitions. And I think, is there one moment for you where you're at today that was most influential or impactful, like a moment of expansion that took you from point A to point B, that was like one of those big lines of demarcation or a shift that you've seen in your life or your business?
Sure, lending is 100%. That's changed my life. Now, I would say, that's a great question, by the way. I would say that if you look back at your life and you see moments of elation, and joy, or moments of despair and heartache, they're all tied to relationships.
Mm.
What I've found, think about it. If you go through a divorce, you're probably going to have a traumatic year.
Mm.
If you get married to the love of your life, you're going to probably, you look back at that time, you're probably going to say that was an amazing year. So, kind of on that thought, I try to develop relationships with people, that I feel like I can add value to them, and they can add value to me. And from that point, I feel like it's relationships stacked on relationship. Many, 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 many relationships. Almost like, think about it, man. If you get with a business partner and you enjoy each other's company, and you do business together, it's a marriage to some degree. Is that fair to say? A good business partner, somebody you trust, that provides value to you, not just in business but in life. It's kind of like getting married. So I like to think I get married a lot. Find very good business partners. All of my life, a lot of the, every week I'm trying to find those types of people. Ultimately, but anyway, but definitely getting into the lending was a game changer for me, and it was not by. I'm a real big intentional person. I like to plan and think, and and then work to discipline and goal achievement toward that goal. Lending was not that. That was more of a mistake. And then got to put the pieces together, just like flipping. When I started flipping, I did one at a time like everybody else until I put the pieces together. And so I would say that's definitely, relationships. And then it come from certain people have helped me in the lending space, through mentors and, people like Tom Berry and different people like that who I look up to, who help significantly grow my business. And that might be capital source, relationships to develop. So I would definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like, this latest shift, because when did the lending start? That was relatively recent, right?
About 3 years ago. And there's two sides of that. There's a one-off. When I had a couple $1 million out in loans, cash, I didn't know what I was doing. I just had just straight cash. And then I started saying, I'm running out of money. I can't just keep lending. So I started selling off rentals, and I would basically pull that off and it'd go right back out just as flips. It would just go out as fast as it came in. Then I started partnering with private lenders. And and I kind of doubled my bandwidth. So loans would come in and come out, so I doubled it, but then I ran out again. So that was kind of how that just real slow and kind of methodical there, but it was not intentional. But when I started, I would say the an official capacity, maybe 2 years or a year and a half.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Where it was more of a brand and like from a private lender to a more established lender,
Right. So in what I hear you say that I appreciate, going from seeing like a flip show on HDTV that's like instant gratification. Hey, this is very simple. It's easy. Anybody can do it, even towards, what you're doing now on the lending side in that business. Like, what have you learned in terms of the importance of like honoring the process and moving step by step through the expansion? Because a lot of people, they get in, they get excited, they've got that motivation, they've got that energy, and then they realize that it's not 0 to 100 like super fast. It's 0 to 100 over 10 years, right? So it's like, how have you kind of handled that, especially like, because we're talking about expansion of your business, expansion of your mind, expansion of your heart. Like from a mindset perspective, how have you kind of structured yourself and like got things organized in your mind to be like more of this regimented process, methodological, type approach?
That's a great question too. There's a saying I like a lot. It says personal income rarely exceeds personal development. And I believe that. So you develop yourself personally, and that's through faith, reading the word, reading books, growing in wisdom, growing in, internally growing. And then as you grow yourself, the income follows, the processes follow, the people follow too, right? Having the right people. A lot of my business completely was transformed as I found contractors, as I found an assistant, as my wife came on, work full time, as my project manager came on. So it's like, how do you grow yourself to attract the right people? That's the question, is growing internally, and then that internal growth attracts the right people into your life and into your business. And I don't think you can overlook that. So I really try to work on becoming the type of person that success wants. I word it this way. Everybody loves money and loves success, or loves the idea of success, right? Not to an extreme, but they like the idea of it. But who has developed into a person that success likes? Money likes. So everybody wants it, but does it want you? And then what kind of qualities do you have to possess so that it's attracted to you, just as you're attracted? So you see the value in financial independence. Everybody, any entrepreneur sees that value. But the question is, are you transforming yourself into the person that it wants for you? Because it's got to be both ways. I know that might be a weird thought, but I think about it a lot. Is kind of transforming myself first, and then over time, that's what in my experience anyway, Ben, is the right people enter your life based on who you are as a person.
Man,
so I try to work personally, and then let all the other things play out as they will. But knowing that, hey, I'm going to try to do things right. I'm going to be honest, be transparent. I'm going to think about others, first, and be the best leader, best encourager that I can.
Yeah, man, that's so good. And I know because you've, been in the real estate business a lot longer than I have. And, I've heard from mentors as well. It's like a good deal, money will find a good deal, right? So just as you're talking about that kind of attraction, like if I've got a good deal, or if anybody out there has got a good real estate deal, I always say it's not about the money. It's not about finding the money. It's about finding the deal first. And then that will attract, the money will come to that deal. It's very easy to sell a deal, but when you start talking about the relationship side of it, I think that's so important, because I'm with you. I've been investing in my personal development. I mean, I've always been in some form of leadership since high school, right? So there's always been this kind of continual investment. So what, I know you talked a little bit about your faith and getting into kind of more of the heart side of things. Like, what are the things that you're finding that, are getting you transformed in that space, or that expansion around? Like, I know you've got a great heart of service. You talk about encouragement, you talk about mentorship. Like, what is it for you that keeps you going? Because I know, you've created the financial success, you're still on that journey. Like, where in your heart is kind of that drive, or that, heart of service that's really kind of showing through, that I get to witness and see from you on the outside? But how does that kind of work out? How do you kind of feel that in the business and in your life right now?
I think there's a certain point. I could illustrate it through a story, maybe the best. I had an individual reach out to me, and he called me and said, "Hey, James, I've never flipped. I'm a contractor. I've done a lot of jobs, but I've never flipped a house. I've got this great deal from a wholesaler. It looks great. Give me your thoughts on it. This wholesaler recommended me use you for finance." I said, "Okay, great. Let's meet up." So we meet up at a local Starbucks, and we end up talking for about an hour and a half. Fantastic guy. Very ambitious. New construction, very well. And we're going back and forth and back and forth. And probably after like an hour and a half, I didn't feel like he was comfortable with the deal.
Hmm.
All right, let me tell you the numbers on it. He was buying it for $55,000. He was going to put about $35,000 into it, and it was worth $155,000. Would you do that deal?
Absolutely.
In it for $9, worth
Yeah.
yeah, you'd do it in a second, right? There's no
yeah.
if you and he had never deals, didn't know, but I was like, first off, you got a phenomenal deal.
Yeah.
It gets you excited, real good. So, mind you, the end result of this deal was, I'm gonna jump ahead. He listed this house for $182,000 and got $188,000.
Wow.
What ended up happening. But anyway, so we're going back and forth. We're going back and forth, and after about an hour and a half, I don't feel like he's totally sold. He wasn't really sold. He was still. He's a Hispanic. In the Hispanic culture, getting a loan is a little uncomfortable. Like he had his house in cash, he had his cars in cash. So the idea of getting it bothered him, and I could tell. And so I told him, I said, hey, look, here's what we're going to do. I don't think you're sold. So I'm going to buy this deal. Okay. I'm going to take it from you and I'm going to buy it. And you're going to do the construction for me. And then you're going to make 20% of $35,000. So you're going to make $6,000. All right. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to make 60. I said, are you good with that? What do you think he said, man?
No.
He said no. Exactly. So
Yeah.
I worded it that way. It clicked. I said, the only difference between you making $6,000 and $60,000 is about 3 months. I said, if you can wait to collect those funds, you're going to make 10 times the money. And he snapped. It snapped. And he goes, James, I'm doing it. I said, perfect. You found the deal. You can do the construction. You should do this deal. But, you think a story, example like that. I took a deal there where I could have talked him out of it, but I talked him into it. And so to me, that's kind of like moving from success to having significance, because that ended up dramatically impacting his life. Right. And I don't know how many people in real estate would have tried to talk him out, a guy that's on the edge. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it's worth thinking about that. At some point, you want to go from, think about him. Me and him do 3 deals now constantly. 3 deals. That one deal just set him up. So you have stories like that, and I have so many of those. It's just, but I feel like operating in that way with all people that no one ever knows. No one knows who that person is, and it doesn't even matter. I only say it because it's thinking about in real estate of conducting yourself in that manner. You know what I mean? Where you're not looking out for, how can you maximize this situation? It's how can this person, how can it be a win-win so that, and think about it though, if I would have taken that deal from him and I'd have made 80 grand, he would have went around and I would have went around blasting me. And so you can't build a reputation on that either. You can build a reputation though on convincing people on what the best course of action is and then helping them along the way. You can build you can build someone. And I'd encourage everybody to think about, and also when people wonder how I do so many deals. Well, if you keep your mind focused on the long-term relationship, the short-term takes care of itself. You with me on that thought?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking long-term about the long-term relationship. And me and him, like I said, me and him continually do deals now. Continually. And I think it's important to kind of keep your mind riveted on the long term and off the short term. And as a byproduct, the short term's always taken care of. It's an interesting kind of philosophy to think about. But
that's so
that's
powerful.
kind of what is that sort of thing. Hey, James, talk me into impacting my life. And I think that's something a little different.
Yeah. And I think that's so powerful too, because just that, I think, and that's why, I honor you, appreciate you, because it is, it's not about, the short-term win and the sacrifice of, a relationship, integrity, loyalty, a lot of the values that you have that, I've got to know of you, and, in that are representing yourself in the marketplace. And so I think the beautiful thing is that, with this longer term, relationship, like just being obedient to what may happen in the future, because I'm sure that one moment you had no idea, what that would turn into when you were sitting there having that conversation with him, right?
No, no.
So,
And
yeah,
I wouldn't matter either. I mean, we could have done one deal and never done another one.
yeah,
But I, that's, um, you're right. I did not know, but that's the way I want to conduct myself too. It just,
yeah,
to me, that's the only way to do business. Uh, I
yeah.
did a speech one time, and I had this president of a bank. They were like from the country. It was Yoakum National Bank. And he walked up to me and goes, "James, you have a lot of old fashioned ideas." I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "Oh,
Mhm.
just you have a lot of old fashioned ideas." I said, "Well, he goes, you think about a place like Houston where there's 10 million people. If you screw somebody or do something like that, you'll just replace that customer.
Mm,
There's 10 million other people." He goes, like in Yoakum, there's not enough people to replace those bad relationships that you've done and done people wrong. So you
yeah.
can't do those things. And
Hmm.
I love that thought. It's just because you can replace these people doesn't mean you should. I
Yeah.
think it's a different way to look.
Yeah. No, that's so powerful. And I think when I got into real estate, or people that are in any sort of sales, if we're looking to get that short-term win, we have no idea what the long-term opportunity is that we're sacrificing. And I think about my business too. It's like, if I didn't honor this one lead that came through that turned into, an entire channel of opportunity, very similar to what you're saying, it's like, man, how I would not be blessed just in that one opportunity. And we don't know, God puts across a path, or whoever we get to encounter, or get to serve. And that's why, I appreciate you and everything that you do for the real estate community, for the entrepreneurship community, for people that are looking to get into real estate, because, it's just really without expectation. It just comes from a place of service. And even, with all the work that you do, everything is just about serving, educating, inspiring, equipping, like getting people set up for success. Just like you said with this contract that you talked about, I mean, a transformative moment that has impacted and changed, his life, his family's life. It could even be, if we talk about longer term, like a legacy, generational type change, right? So I just think, and just to wrap, like, why is expanding important to you? Like expanding your mind, expanding your business, expanding your heart. Like, why is expansion important, and how do you think of it? Just because I think, I've been able to witness and see, and even in our conversation today, just so much growth. But why is expansion important to you?
Sure. Leadership is influence. I think, and that's what a lot of this has to do with, is influence, right? So as
Mm,
I grow, as I expand my mind, I bring more value to each relationship, right? And that's the way I look at it is I can have influence and and make an impact through the expansion of my mind and through the expansion of my value.
mhm,
So, it's people people want to do better and have more significance and have more influence, but the way that's done is by becoming more valuable.
mhm,
And I would make that claim right there. People want to get paid by the hour, or people get paid by the hour, right? And you're capped. But if you get paid for your value, there's no cap.
mm,
That's a thought that I always think about. Don't get paid by the hour. Don't do things to get paid by that. Get paid by your value. And there should be a trigger of fire and emotion of who you could be based on that. And it was for me. As so you're telling me there's no cap. There's no cap when you get paid based on value.
mm,
And so if there's no cap there, it's how valuable can I get? How much uh how much can I learn? How much can I grow? How many people can I help?
Mhm.
And over time, that expansion leads to influence. And then where do you take that influence? Well, hopefully you take it so that you make a positive impact in all this that you come in contact with. So that's my goal of expansion, is making an impact. And ultimately, one of my affirmations that I read every day says, you've helped create 100 millionaires.
Mm.
Right. But what is the influence you're causing on others? Well, I want to help create financial independence.
Mm.
I did it through myself, which is great. But the lasting legacy, in my mind, comes not from what you've done yourself, but who you've helped and what you've done in their lives. So, I mean, that's a deeper thought. I don't know if you're going that far, but I do think about that.
No.
And kind of like maybe a final thought. And I think this is, and I think about this a lot. And I think it's worth you thinking about, and your audience is, whenever you're dead and you're sitting in your coffin, and you have, what are they going to say when they take that microphone and they go to the audience of all the people there, and it reminds me of one time that we're talking about this guy, and they said, is anything anybody would like to say? And nobody came up, and nobody came up, and nobody came up. And finally, guy comes up, he says, well, his brother was worse. That was all they had to good to say about him, with his brother. Anyway, so I want the place to be overflowing with people who, that hopefully you made some impact.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think is why you just want to make a positive impact and leave a legacy like that. And the final, final impact there is that moment. When you have a room full of people, or you have an overflowing of people who said, "Hey, man, that when I met that person up there, something changed.
Yeah.
Something clicked. It all changed." And that's maybe one of the best things. Or he led me to the Lord, or
Right.
he helped my relationship, or all those things that really are meaningful.
Yeah.
A bigger cause. That's not really a money thing necessarily. It's more of a influence ultimately. So we'll say that's the goal of what I'm doing and what I would consider success.
Man, that's so great. Well,
Expansion.
man, yeah. Yeah, that's so good, man. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy. I just honor you, appreciate you. Excited you're going to be joining us June 20th here in Houston at Expand. And James, if anybody wants to reach out to you, get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Probably social media. Just add me on Facebook, James R. Toler. Add me, shoot me a DM, and I love to talk, love to help, and anything needed, just consider it done.
Awesome. You're the man. Thanks, James. Appreciate you. And yeah, thanks so much. Incredible value, and just again grateful for your time. Thank you so much, and wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Ben. I look forward to it. Thank you for including me.
Absolutely.